Indonesia is an archipelagic country with one of the world's richest reefs and longest coastline. This gives Indonesia an immense potential in the fisheries and marine sector. The Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science of Diponegoro University has been among the leading marine research institutions in Indonesia, since it was first established as Fisheries Department in 1968 and officially became a faculty in 1994. The Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science is located in the Central Java province. The main campus, where main activities take place, is located in the capital city of Semarang. The second campus, also known as the Marine Science Technopark and Coastal Development Laboratory, is located in Jepara Regency. The vision of the Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science is to become an excellent faculty in the field of fishery science and tropical marine in the year 2020. In pursuing its vision, the Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science missions are to provide a high-quality education in the field of fisheries and marine science, engage in scientific research and publications, produce intellectual property rights, provide community services in fisheries and marine science field, implement a professional and accountable system, and empower students' activities to achieve the complete graduate qualifications. There are 6 departments in the Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science. The first one is Aquatic Resource Management, Capture Fisheries, Aquaculture, Marine Science, Oceanography, Fisheries Product Technology. The faculty provides numerous facilities to support all study and research activities, from student discussion spaces, library, and integrated laboratories. We provide aquaculture lab, biotechnology lab, chemistry lab, hatchery, and geographic information system lab.
The excellence of Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science is proud to contribute in fisheries and marine field through artificial patch reef in Panjang Island, Jepara, provides information to the public of Semarang as a reference data for sea level rise on the coast with rope calendar. In our faculty, we collaborate academic and experimental learning to give the best experience of learning. The faculty have 16 student activity units divided into several fields like art, sport, religious club, research, student executive board, and student senate, where students are allowed to become more involved on campus, increase leadership, social responsibility, and their personal development. One of the organization, Kesemat, received an achievement as the best ASEAN student organizations in 2016. Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science conducts activities in international scale, such as International Tropical Summer Course and International Conference on Tropical and Coastal Region Eco-Development. International Tropical Summer Course is an event for international students from partner universities to learn about coastal ecological preservation and coastal biota in Semarang and Karimun Jawa Island. International Conference on Tropical and Coastal Region Eco-Development is an annual international seminar event that aims to promote and disseminate research results.
The Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science aspire to take a role in strengthening the marine and fisheries field in Indonesia through the application of knowledge from our graduates to achieve and bring positive impact to the society.
Banyak ilmu dan pengalaman selama saya berkuliah di sini. Dan ilmu yang saya dapat sangat cocok dengan bidang yang saya jalani sekarang. Melalui pekerjaan seperti ini, saya mendapatkan kesempatan untuk berkunjung ke tempat yang bahkan tidak pernah saya bayangkan sebelumnya. Perikanan saat ini menjadi sektor yang dibutuhkan di dunia ini. Banyak negara pengekspor ikan, bukan hanya Indonesia. Kebutuhan untuk makan ikan di seluruh dunia pun selalu tinggi, terutama di negara maju.
Saat ini saya bekerja di PT Freeport Indonesia, salah satu tambang terbesar yang ada di Indonesia. Posisi saya saat ini adalah sebagai Senior Manager di Departemen Lingkungan. Saya bertanggung jawab terhadap semua aspek lingkungan yang ada di job site untuk memastikan PT Freeport Indonesia mematuhi semua peraturan perundangan yang berlaku di bidang lingkungan. Ilmu yang saya pelajari banyak saya gunakan karena salah satu aspek yang dilakukan oleh PT Freeport Indonesia adalah melakukan kegiatan pengelolaan dan pemantauan di ekosistem pesisir.
Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science offering some programs, including international and national programs, and we challenge you to explore our fisheries and marine science resources. So, be proudly to welcome you to our Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dia Ayuningrum. It is a wonderful and precious chance for me to be your master of ceremony in this online seminar held by the Department of Aquatic Resources, Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science, Universitas Diponegoro. In this special moment, we have a very special guest from Akechi Marine Station, Hokkaido University, Japan, which will have the presentation with the title Effects of Climate Change on Marine Biodiversity and Coastal Ecosystem. First of all, let's say thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has been giving us guidance, happiness, healthy, and mercy, so we can attend and participate in this online seminar without any obstacle. Praise and salutation upon our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the best figure of this universe, the person who was able to save us from the Jahiliyah era. In this beautiful moment, I would like to welcome Professor Masahiro Nakaoka, PhD, who will be the speaker of our online seminar today, as well as the Honorable Professor Insinyur Triwinarni Agustini, MSc, PhD, as the Dean of Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science, Universitas Diponegoro, the Honorable Mr. Agus Trianto, ST, MSc, PSD, as the Vice Dean of Academic and Student Affairs, Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science, Universitas Diponegoro, the Honorable Dr. Insinyur Suryanti, MPI, as the Head of Aquatic Resources Department, the Honorable Dr. Aninditya Sabdaningsih, SSI, MSI, as the Head of Graduate Program, Aquatic Resource Management, the Honorable Mrs. Hurun Ain, MSI, as the Secretary of Undergraduate Program, Aquatic Resource Management, the Honorable Dr. Insinyur Frida Purwanti, MSc, as the moderator for today's seminar, the Honorable all of the lecturers of Aquatic Resource Department who cannot be mentioned one-on-one, as well as all of the committee of this today's online seminar. And welcome to all of the participants. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin this event, let us pray together. May God make this event beneficial for us, and this online seminar can run smoothly and conducively. Start praying based on our individual belief. Begin. Finish? On this special online seminar, we have several agendas. So allow me to read several sequences of our agenda. The first is the opening and sharing rules for the participants. The second is hearing Indonesia Raya as national anthem. Opening remarks from the Vice Dean. The fourth is photo session. The fifth is the core event, a presentation from Professor Masahiro Nakaoka, PhD, followed by the discussion, which will be led by the moderator. The last but not the least is closing. Ladies and gentlemen, let us recite Basmalah together to open this online seminar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you. Now, I would like to read the rules in this online seminar. Okay. As you can see in the screen, there are several rules here. Number one, the seminar is held through 2 channels. There are Zoom and YouTube. For participants who have difficulty logging into the Zoom, please do not mind to switch to your YouTube account. And number 2, for the stability of the internet connection, participants' video and audio are automatically turned off and will be pleased to turn on in the photo or discussion session. Number 3, in discussion session, please use the chat feature on the Zoom to ask questions. Those who want to be conveyed directly can use the raise hand feature. For participants who are present on YouTube, can text question on live chat. Number 4, the attendance form link will be shared through the chat menu on Zoom and live chat on YouTube during the discussion session. And the last, participant must attach proof of attendance, screenshot of Zoom or YouTube subscriber. Okay. Step on the following agenda is hearing the national anthem, Indonesia Raya. The committee will help to play the song. Let's hear together. Okay, thank you very much for the committee. Ladies and gentlemen, I immediately invite the Vice Dean of Academic and Student Affairs, Mr. Agus Trianto, SD, MSc, PSD, to give his opening remarks. Please welcome Mr. Agus Trianto. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Dia Ayoningrum. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is my great honor to welcoming you, especially Prof. Masahiro Nakoka, as a keynote speaker on the online seminar today, and also for the committee of the seminar, and also all the participants. First of all, let me to apologize on behalf of our Dean, Professor Dr. Tuwinarni Agustini, because she cannot attend in this important meeting because now she has a special agenda in with our rector. Climate change has a high impact on the marine biodiversity and also coastal ecosystem. Because climate change causes many new phenomena such as ocean acidification and global warming, also extreme weather and so on. That's why that phenomena can give a high impact on both of diversity and coastal ecosystem. The impact need to be anticipated and mitigated to avoid the more problem. That's why this online seminar is bring very exciting issue for us. Hopefully, this seminar not only a forum for knowledge sharing, but also for strengthen the collaboration between all of us, especially between Professor Masahiro Nakaoka and our and with our faculty. We hopefully so in the future we have like collaboration research and also maybe a collaboration study on the marine biodiversity and also on coastal development. This is our hope, and also all participants also have a good contribution in the seminar, give not only as a listener, but also maybe give some information about the impact of climate change. So by this forum, so the discussion will be more exciting. And finally, I am as a Vice Dean of Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science, formally open this online seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Agus Trianto, ST MSc PhD. Would you mind to stay a moment with us because we will have a photo session with all of the participants? I kindly ask for all participants to open the camera. Please turn on your camera. And yeah, the committee will help to take the photo of us. Please.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dia. I will take a picture. So, ladies and gentlemen, can you on-cam your camera? On your camera, so I will take a picture. 1, 2, 3. Next slide. 1, 2, 3. Third. 1, 2, 3. Fourth. 1, 2, 3. And the last 5. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the committee. For the Vice Dean of Academic and Student Affairs, you may stay in this webinar or you may leave. And for all of the participants, now we are in the beginning of the core agenda. An expert in his field, Professor Masahiro Nakaoka, PhD, will deliver a presentation entitled Effects of Climate Change on Marine Biodiversity and Coastal Ecosystems, which will be led by our moderator, Dr. Insinyur Frida Purwanti. I would like to read a brief curriculum vitae of our moderator. So, Dr. Insinyur Frida Purwanti is a lecturer at Department of Aquatic Resources, Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science, Universitas Diponegoro. She was born on 25th of February 1984. And for her educational background, she got her bachelor from Fisheries Study Program, Faculty of Animal and Fisheries, Universitas Diponegoro. And then she continued her master program in Center for Coastal Management, Southern Cross University, Australia. And she got her doctoral degree from Natural Resources and Environmental Management, IPB University, Indonesia. Dr. Frida has expertise in management of conservation area, ecotourism, and also global environmental change. You can contact Dr. Frida in the email, as you can see in your screen. And finally, without any further ado, let's hear the presentation from Professor Masa, and please welcome Dr. Insinyur Frida Purwanti to lead this webinar.
Thank you, Dr. Dia Ayuningrum. Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay, let me also say thank you to Academic Affairs of the Fisheries and Marine Science Faculty, Pak Agus Rianto, MSc PhD, the Head of Aquatic Research Department, Ibu Dr. Insinyur Suryanti MPI, and the Head of Aquatic Research Management Postgraduate Study, is Ibu Dr. Aninditya Saptaningsih, MSc, and also all the participants who joined this online seminar. Good afternoon. My name is Frida from Fisheries and Marine Science Faculty. I'm delighted to serve you as a moderator for this online seminar. We appreciate you taking off your busy time to join the seminar, and I hope you will learn a lot of today. I would like to extend my gratitude to our special guest, Professor Masahiro Nakaoka from Hokkaido University. Before we start the presentation, I would like to introduce Prof. Masa to you. He is a very kind person. I know him about 2 years ago when I took a summer course in Akasi Marine Station, and we have collaboration for assessment and conservation of blue carbon ecosystem under SAPTA project in Karimun, Jawa for 5 years. He got bachelor degree in 1987, master degree in 1989, and then so doctor in 2003. All is from University of Tokyo. His expertise is in marine ecology. Now he's appointed as a director of Akasi Marine Station since 2008. And there are many achievements in international academic society and international cooperative research and education as all in a Japanese academic society. His body as a science planning committee, steering committee for the World Seagrass Association, and he also the principal investigator for Tsunagiri project by Bergman Forum, as a Japanese host for Sdra Experimental Network. Also, he has activity as a deputy editor-in-chief for Ecological Research. It's a scientific journal. Associate editor for Estuarine and Coast, editorial board for Ecological Research and Population Ecology. So if any participant want to send an article for this journal, please contact him. And he also appointed as a committee in the government and provincial project. You see there are many. As a board member for coastal ecosystem monitoring, committee for selecting important marine area for marine biodiversity protection, a working group for the promotion of monitoring for global climate change from the Ministry of Environment, Japan. Okay. Now I would like to invite Prof. Masahiro Nakaoka, our special guest from Hokkaido University. who will be presenting us about effect of climate change on marine biodiversity and coastal ecosystem. You will have time total 70 minutes for presentation and maybe 60 minutes for discussion. And during this lecture, all the participants are invited to us in the chat room, or you can also raise your hand when we have a discussion session. Now, Prof. Masa, the screen is yours. Please.
Yes, thank you very much, Frida, for introduction of myself. And thank you, Dr. Dia Ayuningram and Dr. Agus Triant and other committee members of University of Diponegoro for organizing this good opportunity to give a talk and present and discuss about our common interest on marine ecosystems and especially on the future of the ocean conditions. Okay, as Frida already introduced me well, so I will skip my self-introduction, but I'm now working for Hokkaido University in Japan. Hokkaido is a northernmost island, which is quite cold place for most Indonesian people. Today, this morning, it was the coldest day of the season. The air temperature was -1 degree, so it's freezing. Now it's coming to December and winter. We will soon have snow and a lot of ice, which is also good if you can endure coldness. And but I also was working in tropical regions, so sometimes I have to move from the coldest region of Hokkaido to Indonesia. The temperature difference is maybe 30 degrees, and I have to go there by within 1 or 2 days and coming back here, and then it gets freezing again. But somehow people can adjust to such kind of differences. So do not mind, and all of you are welcome to come to Hokkaido, our lab, if you have any chances. Okay, let me share my slides and I will start the session. Okay, excuse me. So can you see the slide of my presentation? First page, it's now, I hope it goes to the presentation mode. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Now it's presentation mode. So
Yes.
it is the first page. So
Yes, we can see it.
okay, thank you. So the title of my talk today is the effect of climate changes on marine biodiversity and coastal ecosystems. So in this lecture, I will talk something of everything. I mean, a little bit by bit about the different aspects of climate change, how climate change will affect our ocean and our marine biodiversity in a different way. And I think all of them are very important, and we have to consider together how to solve this problem. Okay. So as I mentioned, this is where I'm now staying, working. Hokkaido is actually the northern end of Japanese archipelago islands. And our station, the station I work, Marine Lab, locates in farthermost eastern and northern end. The latitude is 43 degrees. And now, actually, sunrise is around 7 o'clock and sunset 3:30 in the afternoon. So it is because of the high latitude. And here, so it's about 1,000 kilometers away from Tokyo, Japan's capital. By flight, it takes nearly 2 hours to go from Tokyo to Akeshi. And it is actually the picture map of Akeshi area. And this area, especially northeastern Hokkaido, is affected by the cold current. It is called oyashio. Oyashio means mother current. So it's very important. And it's actually very cold. In January and February, it is not air temperature, but water temperature become -1 degree Celsius. You know, salt water never freeze in 0 degree. It's much become colder. But because oyashio contains very rich nutrient, and there's a lot of nutrient input also from terrestrial area. There's a big river called Bekambeushi River, which has a large wetland around here. Wetland is actually called Bekambeushi wetland, which is the second largest wetland in Japan. And all the water flow into Akeshiko estuary, brackish estuary. It is covered with seagrass, and then flow into Akeshi Bay. It is marine area, and then to the Pacific Ocean. And it the population is very small. It doesn't have scale, but this estuary is about 5 kilometer diameter, and the population of this area is just 8,000 people. So it's quite low population area with much pristine nature is remaining both on land and sea. And as I mentioned, it's very productive area with full of high qualities, and fishers can produce a very good fisheries and fish catch. And here we have our marine station called Akeshi Marine Station, which is not so big. We have only 3 scientific staff and several technicians and officers and a few students. But we are doing a lot of different type of study with collaboration with researchers and students in our own university. We have a campus in Sapporo, and also with research staff and students from other universities, and also some of them are international collaboration. And we have a research vessel called Misagomaru, which we can go to the 10 miles of the coast. And there's a lot of interesting ecosystems around us, kelp forest. And my main focus is seagrass. And we are doing an experimental study in seagrass bed. And some of our staff are actually specialists of remote sensing analysis of pelagic ecosystems and also benthic ecosystems. And we are studying a lot of different aspects of marine ecosystems, like basic study like biodiversity functions and services of marine ecosystems, or marine animal-plant interactions, and land-ocean interactions. And today's topic is evaluation on the effect of climate change on marine ecosystems. We are recently start working also on another important issue in marine ecosystem now, about the effects of microplastics on marine ecosystems. Today, I will focus on the study of effect of climate change. First, I think it is a very basic for those who majored in marine science, but I will just give an introductory talk about marine organisms. So most of the marine animals and plants are classified into 3 different types of organisms based on habitat types. Plankton is organisms which live in 3-dimensional water column and unable to swim against the ocean current, whereas nekton is organisms that can swim and move independently of currents. And the benthos or benthic organisms are those living attached to the seafloor or in the sediment or boring. These are benthic animals. So there's a different type of organisms. And my main research subject is ecology of benthic organisms. In a benthic system, there's quite a lot of important and conspicuous ecosystems all around the shorelines. We usually classify the coastal ecosystems based on benthic ecosystems based on the depths of the ocean, intertidal or shallow sea or deep sea, and by whether it is hard or soft bottom. In intertidal, we will see a lot of rocky shore, tidal flat, mangrove, and salt marsh. Shallow sea, there's a coral reef, seaweed, and seagrass bed. And the deep sea habitat, usually it is a soft mud bottom, but sometimes they have a high biodiversity area like hydrothermal bent communities. Mostly it's difficult for us to study in deep sea because limitation of the access. But so we usually tend to study in a shallower area where human can access much more frequently. But they are very important habitats which support high biodiversity, and some of them are very valuable to human beings. And as I mentioned, marine biodiversity is very rich in coastal ecosystems, and we are always learned to actually ask or learn. It is important to protect these marine biodiversity in coastal ecosystems. Why? Because, as I mentioned, coastal ecosystems host rich marine biodiversity. Marine ecosystems with higher biodiversity offer higher ecosystem functions, and ecosystems with higher ecosystem functions offer higher ecosystem services. So I will first explain about these two important terms, ecosystem functions and ecosystem services. Ecosystem function is defined as various types of roles and values of ecosystems. Actually, by itself, it means anything, quite a meaningful term. Usually, we measure and compare ecosystem functions using variables of community, biological community or ecosystems, such as biomass, amount of organisms living in ecosystems, productivity, rate of new materials, organic matter produced by plants and used and gained by animals, or energy material flow among components of ecosystems. Or you can also we can also consider about the variation among with time, whether ecosystem is stable or unstable. If ecosystem is very resistant to stresses, it is function is high, considered high, and it is actually recovering rapidly from disturbances and coming back to the normal state again, then function of ecosystem is usually considered very high. And then these functions are related to ecosystem services, which is defined as various types of services and benefits human receives from natural ecosystems. Actually, we are benefited by nature, Mother Nature, and it's actually since 1990s for the conservation of global biodiversity and global environment. this term, ecosystem service, is established and classified, and according to the different type of benefits human obtains. Generally, they are actually classified into 4 different services. Provisioning services is something we received directly as a resource from nature. Something like seafood is a very well-known example, but we also obtain fibers, fertilizer, or any type of minerals or genetic resources from natural ecosystems. They are called provisioning services. Regulating services is a function of ecosystem that can regulate climate and environment. Something like water purification by the mangrove or coral reef or seagrass seaweed beds. Fixation of carbon dioxide is quite important recently, as I will mention later. It's really related to climate change mitigation. Soil production is maybe important for the terrestrial ecosystems, plants in terrestrial ecosystems. In terms of marine ecosystems, stability of sediment may be brought by mangroves and seagrasses. Pollination is actually truly terrestrial regulating services by insect pollinator or birds pollinator. A third category is cultural services, which is actually non-material benefit human obtains from natural ecosystems, such as we obtain a lot of benefits which is not directly related to goods or resources, like enjoying ecotourism or using ecosystems as a place for environmental education. There's a lot of values for, authentic values, beauty of nature or something, or some, especially ancient peoples actually has been utilizing it for any religious purposes and so on. And fundamental services is actually all the fundamental elements to support all these 3 direct services. So it's quite equivalent to ecosystem function itself. So air, water, material circulation, processes of primary production, and so on. But anyway, we can classify ecosystem services, and then we will, next slide. We can actually value these ecosystem services in a variety of different ways. One of the ways to evaluate ecosystem services is to calculate economic values in terms of money flow. So it is a very important paper by Robert Constanza et al. In 1997, appeared in Nature, showing the value each ecosystem produce per year per unit area hectare in US dollar. As you can see, estuary, seagrass bed, it is an important component in near shore environment, has really high value, high economic value compared to terrestrial area. Even with tropical rainforest, maybe they have 10 times more value per unit area. But the area itself is not so large in global scale compared to forest or grassland, because these coastal ecosystems occur only in a narrow band between land and sea. But anyway, you can see it has a very high value. So we have a good reason to protect its status. However, as most of you know, these ecosystems important ecosystems has been declining very rapidly from all over the world. So there's an example how we are losing these important ecosystems in coastal area. So coral reef are disappearing at a rate of 1 to 9% per year. Seagrass bed are disappearing at a rate of 7% per year, and mangrove 2%. It is papers already published more than 10 years ago. So I hope the situation has been changing better in this decade, but we are not sure. In the case of seagrass, data on 7% per year loss is coming from this paper by Waycott et al. In 2000, published in 2009, based on this data. So the red part is a report showing the decline of seagrass bed. Blue one is a report increasing in size, and yellow is no change. And based on these data, they estimated the 77% decline. But one of the more important findings is there's no report from Southeast Asia or even from East Asia. There's only one data from Japan and one data from Korea. And those who majored in marine science, marine biology, already knows it is a hotspot of marine biodiversity. It is for the seagrass, not only for seagrass, but coral reef, fish, any marine animals, and marine plants usually have the highest biodiversity in coral triangle area. But world assessment were made without any data from this region. So it is the biggest issue. So based on this, situation, some of us seagrass researchers in Asia actually work together, and finally we could publish the paper July this year about understanding the current status of seagrass bed in Southeast Asia. We collaborate with a lot of seagrass researchers I know in Southeast Asia and East Asia. So based on, it is actually made by, the first author is a postdoc in my lab, and who is very good at GIS analysis. And together with all the members, we collected more than 2,700 GIS data on seagrass distribution in Southeast Asia, new data after 2000. So it is a distribution. And mostly new data comes from Japan, Taiwan, mainland China, Vietnam, and the Philippines. And still, there's a gap in especially Indonesia. It is actually, to tell you the truth, the coastline of Indonesia is too long to collect all the information. And but I think there's more data coming for the next few years. So I hope we can revise the data in Indonesia soon. But anyway, we did the same procedure to make understand or estimate change, like Waycott's paper, and found in our area that temporal change rate, it's still dominated by declining seagrass bed, especially in China and Vietnam. And on an average, it has been actually declining at the rate of 10% per year. The rate was actually higher, little higher than the global mean. So we need more effort to conserve our important coastal ecosystems. Okay. And there's additional data. While we are checking these data, some of the reports and papers actually refer to the causes of decline of seagrass bed, which is summarized as follows. Development, sedimentation, aquaculture, destructive fishing, water quality, tourism, shipping, mangrove plantation, tsunami, and natural factors. And as a total, maybe development, coastal development for the land reclamation or any construction is the biggest causes of the decline in our area, and followed by aquaculture, development of aquaculture pond or destructive fishing, and water quality change is maybe several of the big factors causing the decline. Here, there's not many, but some of them are actually natural factors, like floods, typhoon, and tsunamis. So actually, we need to consider both human impacts and natural disturbance. Okay, so from now on, I will talk about more about the climate change. As I mentioned, for the case of seagrass bed decline, there's a lot of different types of causes or reasons why we are losing important coastal ecosystems. In a textbook of marine conservation, usually they are classified into 5 different categories. Overexploitation, I mean excess resource use of commercially important species, or water quality decline, or coastal development. The second is mostly chemical process, and third is physical processes. And there's a problem of introduced species, non-native species, which became invasive, and then global climate change. This order is arranged in historical recognition by researchers, or scale of impacts from small to large, or along the biological levels from population to community and ecosystems. In whichever the case, these different type of threats are ongoing altogether. And if we focus on global climate change, it is also very multiple, diverse, complex changes occurring concurrently or simultaneously. I think everybody knows the causes of the climate change is mostly human impacts, actually burning fossil fuels, which leads to the atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide and methane and other greenhouse gases has been increasing since the industrial revolution in late 19th century, late 18th centuries. Then increase in greenhouse gas actually warms Earth, both in land and in the sea. And then this is a temperature rise, and followed by sea level rise, which is actually water mass becomes much more with increase in temperature, plus permanent ice from polar regions has been coming to the ocean. And then there's another problem on ocean acidification. It is a direct impact of CO2 input to the ocean. And because land is more, land has more increase much faster than in temperature than ocean, there's a bigger change in the atmospheric pressure gradient, which causes more severe storms or something like big typhoons, or it can also change the pattern of upwelling, but it remains unknown which direction the change usually goes. But in any case, there's too many pathways how the greenhouse gas emission result in the change in marine environments. And we need to consider all of them, but of course it is too many. So I will focus on several of these important serious impacts on marine animals and plants. The latest information about climate change is obtained, actually published in this August by IPCC Climate Change 2021 Physical Science Basis. It is our latest report. And actually, I think most of you knows what is IPCC, but it is actually Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which reports the science, current status and the future projection based on the latest scientific information. And it is actually the latest publication reports that climate change is caused almost for sure that human influence is actually causes of climate change. So compared to the, so these data tables actually I copied from this report. So you can get the same one, but if you look at this open published reports. But you can say that temperature change is occurring since 1850 after the industrial revolution. And there's a simulation how climate change, observed climate change is similar to the simulation with human activity in consideration. But if there's no human activities, it has to be remain the same. So they concluded current change in the temperature is almost obviously by human. And based on the current status, they also give an estimate of future changes by different scenario of climate change and social pathway. So there's two scenarios. The one is for the climate itself. It's called RCP, representative concentration pathway. And it's actually given usually by the different number. Higher the number, it means more serious climate change going on in future. And lower the number, it is more less serious climate change going. And there's another aspect, part of the future scenario. It is called shared socioeconomic pathway. How human society and economy change in the future. SSP1 is actually the future society with consideration of the best sustainability. 2 is middle of the road, intermediate. And 3 is regional rivalry. 4 is inequality. 5 is fossil fuel development. So the future condition, you can see, imagine, higher the number, the worse the world's human situation. Based on this combination, there's a 5 representative scenario is created for the latest reports of IPCC. It is actually ejection rate of carbon dioxide, and as you can see, if it's less than 2.6 scenario, we can still retain the current condition, better condition in future. But if we use fossil fuels and rely on classic style economic development, it will be much worse. And prediction of the marine ecosystems and marine biodiversity is also based on this climate scenarios. Okay, then I will talk about from among these various different type of changes we will experience in future. I will concentrate on these 5 processes, 5 topics, 4 independent impacts of climate change. One is temperature increase, effect of rising temperature. Second is effect of ocean acidification. And third is effect of sea level rise. And fourth is effect of intensified storm and rainfall. And in the last, I will talk about combination of how if 2 or more factors are changing together, how it affects marine organisms and ecosystems. Okay, first is temperature scenarios. As I mentioned, there's a 5 latest scenario from a better one to worst one. And the IPCC report shows how the estimate of the future change, temperature change is different among scenarios. In next 20 years, the change is doesn't change among scenario, but we will experience about 1.5 increase in temperature. It is both air temperature and water temperature. In midterm, until 2060, there's a change among different scenarios. So if we paid more effort for the climate mitigation, it can go up to, even with that, it increased to 1.6 degrees. And in the worst case, it's more than 2.5, 2.4. And in the long term, until the end of this century, variation become higher. So even with the best scenario, it increases up to 1.4 degrees Celsius. And the worst case, it's more than 4 degrees higher than current condition. So it is a big difference. And for the effect of marine organisms, I think everybody knows, especially those living in Indonesia. Maybe you learned or heard quite often that water temperature rise will give a serious impact on health of coral reefs. Corals actually has a zooxanthellae or symbiotic algae inside the cell, but they are actually ejected with a higher temperature. This phenomenon has been known since from already more than 50 years, but the frequency of bleaching is getting much more higher, or it occurs more often recently. And in final at the end, if all the mussel corals died, they are actually covered with small algae like encrusting calcareous algae or other organisms. So it is already, you know, about these type of things are happening right now. In general, it is not only for tropical coral reef, but all of the temperature rise affect all the ocean along the on Earth. General prediction with the temperature rise is actually, as you know, all organisms has its preferred temperature range for living. And if temperature rises, usually we can predict each species will move toward north in northern hemisphere, but move toward south in southern hemisphere. So distribution of each species will change if they can move. Or if you observe one place for a long time, you will see the phenomenon like proportion of southern species increasing, whereas proportion of species which has a major area in northern area has been disappearing, decreasing, if you observe the same place. For the first case scenario, we studied, we don't have coral reef in Hokkaido, but we have a lot of kelp along the rocky shore of the coast, which is very important, especially for Japanese people, because we use kelp, kombu, as a source for the main Japanese dish. It is a very important soup we are taking from kelps. So it's really commercially important as well, but also for the habitat forming species. It create ecosystems with high biodiversity. But kelp is actually prefer cold temperature. So there's a possibility kelp will decrease with temperature rise. So we studied about future kelp distribution in northern Japan. For the 11 kelp species and using 2 scenarios, as I mentioned, it is a medium scenario for the temperature rise, and 8.5 is a worst scenario. This is a species richness of 11 out of 11 species in 1980s. So there's many species, different kelp species in western side of Hokkaido and eastern Hokkaido. This is where my research lab locates. But future prediction by 2090 shows, especially by modest climate change, the number of species in western Hokkaido declines quite rapidly, and for the eastern Hokkaido, it's also species richness. Number of species become lower. In an extreme case scenario for the RCP 8.5, it is more terrible. All the 11 species disappeared from the western half of Hokkaido and Tohoku region, and only 1 to 2 species can remain in eastern Hokkaido. As I mentioned in the first slide, it is the coldest water of Japan. But if we do not take any action against climate change, we will lose all the important kelp species. So we can't take any Japanese soup anymore. That's a very serious problem. It is all the text, but there's also for the second part, when we observe the same part of the coastal area for a long time, there's always already some of the researchers found species has changed. Like rocky shores in California, there's a 0.8 degree change in the temperature between 1930s and 1990s, and there's an observation of increase in southern species and decrease in northern species. Same type of report is also coming from England and Ireland, and also from Japan. In the case of Japanese rocky shore, temperature actually become cooler between 1960s and 18s, then southern species decline. And then it become in temperature start increasing. Sorry, it's this is a misspell. increase in temperature occurs in 1984 to 1993, and species richness and coverage of southern species, which has a main distribution in southernmost Japan or Okinawa, increased. So a lot of reports of the change has been already observed. Second process which climate change causes impacts on ocean marine organisms is by the acidification. I will skip the details mechanisms, explaining details mechanisms how the climate change causes ocean acidification. But simply speaking, 30 to 50%, I think the latest report says more than 50% of the increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is absorbed by ocean. Then actually, pH of seawater decreases with increasing carbonate. And the latest prediction mentioned current pH in the ocean is about 8.1 pH, but future, depending on, again, with a different climate scenario, but it can go down up to 0.4 by 22nd century from the present. So again, there will be a big change occurring or not occurring, depends on the scenario. And type of marine organism mostly affected by the ocean acidification is those who creates calcifier, CaCO3 in their body, like corals, shells, or bivalve or mollusks. Not only animals, but for plants, there's a padina or some phytoplankton producing shells inside the body. These organisms will be heavily affected with decline in pH, ocean acidification, whereas some organisms benefited or gain positive impacts by the ocean acidification. For plants like seagrass, sometimes their limiting resource is carbon dioxide, so ocean acidification can benefit their growth. And for animals like jellyfish, sea anemone, or tunicates, which do not have calcifier, may perform better than calcifying organisms like shells or corals or crustaceans and sea urchins, and they may dominate by winning the competition with these animals. Then future ocean, there's a lot of evidence how ocean acidification affects calcifying organisms. One of the examples is actually, it is a study on larval development of sea urchin, showing that it is a normal larvae of Proteus larvae of sea urchin, but with low pH water, it can't develop normally. So they can't develop and grow. So it negatively affects the population size of sea urchin, and the same with coral reef or mollusks. And then some scientists consider future ocean is now becomes gelatinous, slimy. In pelagic water, plankton is dominated by jellyfish, and sea bottom is actually sea anemone replace coral reef. It is a kind of images for future ocean, which is except for few people, I don't think everybody are happy with this type of change in ocean seascape. Okay, I'm moving to the third part of the effect of climate change is effects on effects on sea level rise by ocean acidification. Again, this is the prediction or future scenario by IPCC latest report, which said already compared to pre-industrial revolution era, we are already, world sea level rise has been increased more than 20 centimeters. And all the projection, future projections shows at least by 2100, it becomes higher, another 30 centimeters higher, even with the best scenario. And in the worst case scenario, it's again, I think more than 80 centimeters or 70 centimeters increase, which is really a big change. And the report said there's a worst scenario. It's actually livelihood is low, but high impact storyline is all the ice sheet in Antarctic or Greenland will dissolved, and then it becomes much sea level becomes higher in much faster speed, and the possibility of increasing sea level rise greater than 50 meters by 2300 cannot be ruled out with these high emissions. So I think if it happens, all the city areas of Semarang or Jakarta or Tokyo or any big cities in the world is under the water. So I think it has a huge impact. It's like a SF films, but it can also occur. So maybe among different type of impacts, sea level rise is most important, but I'm not sure. So even with a slight change, sea level rise can impact marine organisms in a different way. It is especially important for the intertidal species, where this area, intertidal area, is actually some time of the day is ocean and some time of the other time of the day is land. And so if water is increasing, rising, animals living in intertidal area will go up. It itself is not so difficult if they have they can travel or disperse. Another case is, I'm not sure whether anyone confirmed this, but some of the things can happen for corals if some of them have a very slow growth rate, and then speed of water level rise, sea level rise is too fast for slow growing corals. Then, as you know, coral needs light for symbiotic algae to photosynthesize, and then they can't reach catch up with the changes water level. Then it can receive low light intensity for the symbiotic algae to give them energy. Then maybe these slow-growing corals may be actually pressured by the increasing water rise, sea level rise that decrease light intensity. And Nancy Norton, a famous coral reef researcher, called this phenomenon is termed as drawing of coral. It is really unique story maybe, but I hope it won't happen in near future. And big impact also occurs for some endemic organisms, both plants and animals, which lives only in estuary or brackish water. The tidal range change will actually also predicted with sea level rise. And this habitat for these endemic species, brackish water species, may be greatly affected by the change in salinity with sea level rise. And these species has been already rare and very limited in distribution. So global change is likely cause negative impacts on these endangered species, and their extinction probabilities may enhance with sea level rise. Okay, the fourth point is change in storm intensity or rainfall. Again, from the IPCC report, they specialists predict precipitation, rainfall has become more and more intense with climate change. Relative to 250 years ago, concentration of the weather change, I mean, some area has more concentrated rainfall, whereas other area has more dry climate. So it's become uneven along the Earth's surface. And there's a prediction of the frequency of heavy rainfall. So again, compared to the pre-industrial era, we are already seeing the more heavy rain compared to the industrial area, already 1.3 times at the present. And with future global warming, the concentration probability to have heavy rainfall is increased up to 30%. So we will have more heavy rain in future. And I myself recently considered it is quite important, especially heavy intensification of storms, like big typhoon. Actually, we are having more and more biggest typhoon in Japan lately, which actually changes this actually negative impacts or destruct human communities as well. And of course, they also affect natural marine ecosystems, as disturbance is a major factor affecting species diversity. And change in rainfall inland also cause negative impacts to marine ecosystems through freshwater input through rivers. As actually they locally decrease salinity, then again affects, and also they increase turbidity of water and affecting marine biodiversity. Recently, in Hokkaido Island, where I live, we have more and more heavy rain, especially summer months. Heavy rain on land causes flooding like this. Then it actually directly affects mortality of actually seagrass beds. And seagrass bed decline causes habitat loss for small animals which live in seagrasses, and then it changes abundance or biomass of the bigger animals like fish, which some of them human eat. And heavy rain also causes decline in salinity. And then salinity decline is actually directly cause mortality of marine invertebrates, including shellfish. And mass mortality of eelgrass also reduced productivity and reduced yield of shellfish too. So changing weather actually heavily affects coastal ecosystems. For this one, we are now with a collaboration of physical oceanographers and oceanographic scientists and ecosystem modelers. We are now quantitatively evaluating how the freshwater inputs from rivers, actually river inputs to Akeshi water area is quite limited, but how these changes in freshwater input will affect important ecosystems in coastal area of Akeshi estuary and Akeshi Bay. Using integrated hydrodynamic and ecosystem model. Hydrodynamic models can simulate change in temperature and salinity, whereas ecosystem model can simulate changes in important organisms in the ocean, like oysters, seagrass, and zooplankton, or phytoplankton, or clams, or actually basically plants and low-level consumers, and also water quality and sediment quality. And the model prediction shows it is a simulation of the salinity change in different years from 2009 to 2018. We already experienced most heavy rain in 2013, 15, and 16. The red part is less saline water, how less saline water expand with heavy rain in summer. And then it affects major organisms in the estuary. There's an example for seagrass. Their distribution is blue, or clam. It is for aquaculture, is done by this part, blue part, and oyster aquaculture is carried out in this blue part. And we actually evaluate and predict how less salinity water, less than 10, it is 1/3 of the normal seawater, covers in the summer months, and 10, if salinity is less than 10, it negatively affects eelgrass growth. Second row is area where salinity is less than 15, which negatively affect clam survivorship. The third one is salinity area less than 20. The literature shows if it's less than 20, it negatively affects oyster growth. Then you will see we learned in heavy rain year like 2015 and 16, it truly affects a major component of estuary, seagrass, or clam, or almost all the part of oyster. And we really found the mass mortality of oyster in especially 2016. So in the future, we will have more years like 2015 and 16 compared to other years. So it gradually can affect the natural ecosystems and fisheries and aquaculture. Okay, so far I explained about the effect of temperature rise, ocean acidification, sea level rise, and storm frequency or rain fall change. So these are almost individual impacts. But in reality, with ongoing climate change, these changes occur together. It is a figure, schematic figure showing how if more than two factors occur together, how it affects marine organisms. It is population size, or it can be community size, or ecosystem function, or any variables. If there's unperturbated population, a healthy population is remaining, climate change, like temperature rise, will gradually affect organisms or community or ecosystems. If population is already affected by different type of stress or disturbance, for example, with fishing, population size is already low from the beginning because of the human harvesting. If climate change occur in the same way, additively for declining population with undisturbed population, additive effect is predicted like this line. So it again gradually declines, but amounts change because it is actually harvested by human. But the real thing what will be expected is population already disturbed with anything like fishing or water quality change is not declining in the same speed with climate change, but it may have a synergetic or combined impacts. More serious decline can occur because they are suffering from more than two factors. Or they can decline additively to some point. Then it actually changes drastically from the threshold point. It's actually called the point of no return. So this change is likely to happen compared to this simple additive impacts. Actually, one of the example, former student of mine considers how effects of temperature rise and ocean acidification occur together. So he uses one species of snail, which is very abundant in Akeshi, and measured growth with low temperature, with combination of low temperature, high temperature, and high pH and low pH. Temperature low and pH high is a normal condition, current condition. But he couldn't find any change in growth when only temperature become high or only pH become low, these two categories. But he found growth is much lower than control and other groups, only when both temperature and pH changed. So negative impacts can occur when more than two factors changes simultaneously or concurrently, showing the importance of combined effects. So that means we need to consider all the process together. The same is maybe occurring for the impacts of temperature rise and the sea level rise. It is again the example of intertidal area where, as I mentioned, if sea level rise, it will be okay for organisms just to climb up the intertidal area. But in fact, thermal stress caused by increasing temperature become higher in a high level of the intertidal. So even water is coming up, organism in intertidal cannot go up in a high elevation area, which is actually predicted by one of my former students for some organisms. He predicted that organisms living in a higher level cannot go up than the organisms living in lower level can climb up with temperature, sea level rise. So the range for intertidal become narrower as a result. That is another type of combined effects. Also, there's a combined effect with climate change and other type of human activity. In Japanese seagrass bed, we have these 3 species in the coastal area: Zostera japonica, small seagrass, Zostera marina, medium-sized seagrass, and Zostera corescens, high, deep living species. And they have they prefer different zones. If sea level rise occurs, if there's a natural shoreline remaining, they can survive by just changing their depth distribution, just going up by rhizome elongation or flowering and seedling establishment. But in most areas of Japan, shallower area is already developed for the human industrial activities. And then if sea level rise occurs, shallower living species will lose their habitats, proper habitats, unless we remove this environment or physical construction. And it is very hard to remove this infrastructure once they made. And Japan is short of living places. So combined effect of human activity and climate change is very important, and it's maybe much more serious than considering only one factors. Okay, I need to summarize my talks. So take-home messages like is something like this. Natural ecosystems are affected by a variety of human-induced factors that operate at different spatial and temporal scales, including overexploitation, pollution, human alteration of habitat, species introduction, global climate change. And I explained each factor has important effects on marine biodiversity, but it doesn't act individually, but synergistically. So several different processes occur together, which sometimes leads to serious unexpected consequences. I didn't mention about the second following 2 parts, but there's a possibility that one factor affects one population, one species, but they can affect other species by species interactions like competition or prey-predator interactions, which I didn't mention today. And in open ecosystems such as marine environment, species can move much faster than terrestrial organisms, which the dispersal or material transport of organisms and materials can actually change their impact, which is also difficult to predict. So these are kind of things we need to consider when we forecast future change of marine environment with climate changes. Okay, so most of the talk I talk something about quite negative and serious, but we have to be optimistic about future world. And as you know, until yesterday, COP26 for the climate change action has been ongoing in UK. And as some of you may see the news program said, there's a lot of people protesting against government or major industry decision is not sufficient. And what can we do to solve this problem? First of all, for saving the marine environment, we need to establish this important collaboration or cooperation of different program or action. Monitoring is to learn what is happening. Research is to understand why it is happening, changing. And conservation and management is to actually, it is not only by scientists, but actually we need to ask all the stakeholders or citizens to make a wise decision. To do this, we need scientific data on monitoring and research. So we need to establish this ideal triangle for ecosystem management. For monitoring, in Japan, there's a good case practice. Actually, it is nationwide program called Monitoring Site 1000, which government supports to monitor the 1,000 important ecosystems every year over the next 100 years until 2100. Monitor changes biodiversity ecosystem functions to examine the effect of variable different type of human activities and climate change. And some of the site contains seagrass bed site or other type of coastal areas. 28 sites is monitored annually since 2008 along the coast of Japan. And then we have long-term data like this. It is Akeshiko estuary, seagrass bed in Akeshiko estuary. 3 different species of seagrass, relative composition percent per cover changes every year. And the annual cover, this line, changes also fluctuating year by year. But we usually find a decline with when there's a big storm or heavy rain. As I mentioned, so the estuary system is very sensitive to the changing weather. But we know this type of things only when we got some long-term monitoring data. So continuing monitoring is very important. This is the end of my talk, and I hope we can continue discussing about our common topics. And if you are interested, please visit our website in Akeshi Marine Station. We also have Facebook for the latest update of the information. And for students, we like to, especially those who are studying in graduate school, we have annual summer courses for international students every year. Last year and this year, it was actually due to COVID-19, we couldn't open it, but I hope in 2022, we can resume our summer courses again. And we have a limited capacity, but you're welcome to join if you're willing to do it, and you can find some scholarship to come to Japan. I hope COVID restriction will be lifted totally by then. Okay, that is all for my talk, and I'm happy to answer any questions from you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Masa. You got a lot of information. This is comprehensive, interesting lecture. And we will open this discussion session now. I invite for your participation. If you have any question, please raise your hand, or you can also use the chat room. Don't forget to mention your name. Is there any question? Oh, we have one question here. Yeah. I will read for you, Prof. Masa. Hello, Prof. Nakauka. It's very nice presentation, knowledge and information. My name is Kuko from Department of Aquatic Research Management here. My question is, one, are there any other ecosystem service provided by seagrass ecosystem to coastal community besides being used as a place to catch fish, mollusks, and crustaceans? And then the second one, is there any other method to know the impact of climate change on the sustainability of the socio-ecological system in coastal ecosystem, especially in seagrass? And the third is there any other method or information to determine the function of seagrass in reducing the impact of climate change besides knowing its ability to absorb and store carbon? Maybe you can, okay?
Okay, thank
Yep.
you for the question. Thank you for the questions, and I will answer to each of your questions. The first one, are there any ecosystem service provided by seagrass ecosystem for coastal community? Okay, I think for most local coastal communities, it is regarded as one area for catch seafood, cleaning or net fishing, as it is mostly true for worldwide. But there's another important or more important services is they will change the environmental condition both in the water and the sediment. It is, I mean, they change the nutrient level, nutrient concentration by absorbing nitrogen and phosphate. So usually they change the water quality to the better condition, sometimes not. And another important ecosystem services is actually they now, it is now everybody's interest paying attention is they absorb carbon dioxide for the photosynthesis. So they will mitigate carbon dioxide concentration, at least locally, and they store carbons into the sediment. So they have a mitigation effects on climate change. And a lot of people, researchers are studying about how it's important. I think compared to mangrove, the capacity is not so big, but it's still comparative to terrestrial ecosystems. And also there's other type of ecosystem services, which is sometimes unique to local area of different countries. For example, in Japan, some local fishers use seagrasses that traded to the farmers, and the farmers used it for the fertilizer to grow crops until early 20th centuries. And then they start using artificial fertilizer, so it's not traded for anymore. Or there's a cultural services in one part of Hiroshima, Japan, where they use seagrass for the sauna, steam sauna or mist sauna. That is, they say it's very good for your health. It is a kind of cultural services seagrass were used. So we can list up a lot of different type of ecosystem services from different parts of the world. But I agree, mostly people consider fisheries support is one of the most important seagrass ecosystems by seagrass, ecosystem services by seagrass. Okay. The second answer to the second question, is there any other method to know the impact of climate change on the sustainability of socio-ecosystem in coastal ecosystems? It is a good question because first we need to know the change in seagrass bed. And I think it is important to know not only the changing quantity, but also quality. First, we usually, recently, we usually use remote sensing techniques to know the change in seagrass bed area. And the seagrass bed area is a good proxy for the amount of seagrass bed in anywhere. But sometimes, even it is the same seagrass bed, size or biomass of seagrass becomes so different. And then their function to support other animals or absorb nutrient may be totally different. So I think to know this change, we need to do not only large-scale mapping, but also we need to do the regular field census to know the change in size or biomass or species composition of seagrass. And it's not so simple method. We need to invest quite a lot of people, manpower, or some resources to do the field work. But continuing such kind of monitoring is very important to understand the impact of climate change. For the third question, is there any other method for information to determine the function of seagrass in reducing the impact of climate change besides? That's also a good question. I think recently we tried to measure the mitigation effect of seagrass by absorbing carbon dioxide. And locally, it can increase pH by deleting carbon dioxide from the water. And when pH increase, it's actually positively benefit growth of oyster and crab. But seagrass occurs only in a coastal area. So when we consider the ocean as a whole body, it has a limited effect, positive effect. So we need to consider the benefit of mitigation by seagrass bed is act locally. But we need to consider also the total dynamics of carbons inside and also outside the seagrass bed. In terms of blue carbon, sometimes it is not only seagrass, but also seaweed can capture carbon dioxide. And until recently, seaweed is not important as blue carbon sources because they didn't accumulate. They do not accumulate on the bottom, but actually, in fact, they will transport to deep sea without degradation. In that case, seaweed can also be a good source of blue carbon. And I think basic information about carbon dynamics in the water and the sediment of seagrass bed still remain unknown. So first, we need to do more investigation, basic investigation of ecology or biogeochemistry in different type of seagrass bed in the world to know how the result obtained by one seagrass bed can apply to others or not. We need more evidence or case studies to know the general importance of seagrass in climate change mitigation. That is the answer for the third question. Is it okay? Or if you have more questions, please let me know.
Enough for Pukul. Any other question? That's it. Thank you very much. You can raise your hand directly to ask Prof. Masa. No? Oh yeah, we got one participant who raised hand. Mimi Saputri, please. ask your question.
Sorry. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the opportunities. Thank you, Prof. Nakolka, for the very nice presentations. I would like to ask you about the actually conditions. Does the COVID-19 pandemic have a positive effect on the decreasing the Earth temperatures? Because some people think that the COVID-19 pandemic has no effect on decreasing temperature due to the various human activities that produce greenhouse gases too. For example, in Indonesia, like us, yeah, we stay at home, yeah, so we always use the air conditioner all the time. Yeah. Okay. For the next questions, more. Yeah, about a phenomenon of melting Arctic ice, yeah, may be causing a deadly virus to spread in marine mammal. The scientists have found a link between the disease and melting sea ice due to the climate change. Some from literature tell about the climate change driven alteration in Arctic environment can influence habitat availability, species distributions, and interaction and the breeding, foraging, and health of marine mammal. For example, of the virus, foreseen distemper virus, we call PDV, which has caused extensive mortality in Atlantic seals. Does this phenomenon also occur in the marine invertebrates, sir? I think that's all my question. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yep. You can answer directly, Prof. Masa. Still mute.
Still in mute. Yeah.
Still mute, Masa. I cannot hear your voice. Still mute.
Sorry,
Okay.
I was muted. So can I answer to first and second question? Air conditioning and ice melt?
Yes.
Okay, so for the second questions, yeah, about the phenomena of the melting Arctic ice may be causing a deadly virus, yeah, to spread in marine mammal. And the last publication that say for distemper virus, which has caused extensive mortality in the Atlantic seas. So. My question is: does this phenomena or phenomenon also occur in marine invertebrates, sir? Yeah, sorry.
I have no idea, honestly.
Thank you.
Actually, there's a lot of not interesting, but unexpected change occurring even right now. One of the biggest issue occurred this year in Hokkaido is occurrence of red tide, harmful algal bloom, which usually we will see them in a warmer temperature region. Western Japan, or I think in Southeast Asia, you will see a lot of red tide issues, which kills fish and other sources. In Hokkaido, we didn't have red tide, mass red tide in history, but it occurs this year for the first time. And last year in Russia, East Russia, it occurs too. And everybody mentioned it may be related to climate change. We have unexpectedly higher water temperature this summer, but we don't know exactly what is happening. And we will have a lot of unknown factors. I think for Arctic species, the ice melt and the temperature rise is a big concern. And also there will be an indirect effect of pathogen or parasite outbreaks. And we will know such kind of serious impact only after we observe it. If it's, I think we are facing more and more unfamiliar occasions, unfamiliar or new serious impact every year more often. It may be related to climate change, but it is difficult to predict in advance. What we can do is to establish more precise monitoring network to detect any sign of big change in environment. And as a scientist, we need to keep doing such kind of effort to establish marine observation monitoring network to solve different type of problems. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
sir. Yeah. Maybe for the first question, please, sir. Yeah. About what do you think about the COVID-19 pandemic have a positive effect on decreasing the earth temperature, sir? Because some people of us think it's not give the
Yes,
significant effect. Yeah. Thank you, sir. What do you think? Thank you.
Recently I read an article. COVID-19 has everybody except because it decrease humans' activity. It has a positive impact on climate change, but everybody, some researcher already mentioned it has very trivial impacts, so we can't expect too much. Yes,
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm reading the chat box. So yes, it's an important question. Climate change is making temperature rising, so it may be possible to introduce tropical species to subtropical areas and so on. So we can manage that kind of change. Actually, it is there's an ongoing debate how much we can assist changes in marine organisms if their dispersal ability and the colonizing ability is less than the temperature shift speed. But there's a very naive and cautious argument have to be going on. If, you know, we have a lot of problem with artificial or non-intentional species introduction by human. Usually it has a negative effect. So we are very cautious about human-associated, human-assist introduction of warm species into a cold area. Actually, but in some area, for example, in Australia, they are seriously thinking to do some help corals to live much better in warmer water by changing some combination or doing artificial transplantation. And they consider it is assisted evolution or something like that. This idea is very important when you consider if you lose all the corals in Great Barrier Reef, it is a big loss to Australia. So they may consider about doing some artificial planting or even genetic modification, but cautious is needed when human changes distribution or traits of organisms, natural organisms. So we need to keep on discussion about human assist of the changing ecosystem. That's my question, answer to this question.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Masa. Do we still have time, maybe for 10 minutes? Is there any question? Or yes, we have
okay.
question. You can raise.
About HAB problem. Okay.
I have a question. Does climate change have a very big effect on the case of HAB, especially in Acacia Bay, and what the species can dominate in there?
Okay, HAB currently ongoing in eastern Hokkaido is caused by a species of genus Karenia seriformis. Is actually was observed in Japan for the first time this year. And so we didn't know this species is living in Japan until this summer. But it has a big impact on, especially it's caused mass mortality to benthic animals like sea urchin or abalone. And fishers are really disappointed to see this occurring. But scientists has understand it is first record of this type of HAB in cold sea in Japan. So everybody was very puzzled where it came from, or it naturally occurs here. We had a very hot weather this summer, so is it related to it? And we don't have exact answer at the moment. And we need to continue studying and monitoring about whether it can occur next year again or not. Because, you know, some dinoflagellate can diapause and overwinter with a dormant seed. So it will be very important. It will be very disastrous if we have the HAB again next year. So we need to do more basic science on phytoplankton here to solve this problem. Okay.
Thank you, Prof. Masa. We still have one question. This number 3 is okay. We try it now. The question is climate change is like, I think it's already answered. Yeah, for the fourth, the fourth question is now. Does climate change have a very big effect on the case of HAB? It's already, I think it's deadly virus is already also occur in marine invertebrate. Yeah, we have all of these questions already answered. Yeah. Is there any question? You can raise your hand if I'm not mentioning your question here. Okay. There's no.
There's one raising hand.
Okay. Raise hand. Okay, Pak Max, please. Your time.
Okay, thank you very much, Bu Frida. Good afternoon, Prof. Masahiro. My name is Max from Undip. Yeah. Thank you very much for your lecture on the climate change effects on the seagrass, and you have explained more about the effects of climate change, especially on ocean acidification, on marine organisms. I wonder if you have any information about the possibility of the climate change, especially on ocean acidification effects on the thermohaline circulation. Because lately I read some articles about these effects, but some oceanographers say that there is a possibility that ocean acidification will affect or influence or stop the thermohaline circulation. What do you think about that, sir? And then I wonder if you have any
effects on thermohaline.
Thermohaline circulation, ocean circulation. Hello. Yes.
Okay.
Ocean acidification. The effects of ocean acidification on thermohaline circulation, sir. Because I read some articles about that, and then people are afraid that there's a possibility that ocean acidification will affect or stop the ocean thermohaline circulation. I wonder if you can give us some more information about that.
At the moment, I don't have any information about thermohaline circulation impacts. As far as I know, so they have ocean acidification and what to say, that is the oxygen depletion in estuaries or shallow water. If they occur together, it has a huge impact, especially in estuary ocean. Depleting oxygen in water also cause pH decrease. And another source in coastal area is freshwater input. It's actually, freshwater has a lower pH than ocean water. So it also has multiple impacts on organisms. And one of the important aspects is pH change in coastal area, even within a day and night. So in our area, estuary, Akeshi, pH is more than 8.5 in the summer daytime, but it's reduced to 7.5 in early morning before sunrise. So it seems some organisms already adjust to that rapid change in pH. But we don't know exactly how long-term change in pH affects them. We don't know exactly how short-term change in pH and long-term change in pH act together for calcifying organisms. And in the case of estuaries or shallow water, semi-closed water, it is not only ocean acidification or ocean acidification caused not by carbon dioxide, but freshwater input or oxygen depletion is also combining. So it has more serious impacts. But some organisms still can live and make shells. So in that case, some organisms already have ability or evolution to live in such a stressful environment. But we don't know exactly which type of species of marine creatures actually adapt or pre-adapt to different type of stresses caused by different type of pH change. Yeah, so we need to do more basic research for different type of species.
Okay, sir. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Bu Frida.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Pak Max. You're welcome. Okay. That's all of this question. We have no more questions. Okay, then. Finally, we come to the end of the seminar. Before closing the seminar, I will try to summarize the main point of this lecture from Prof. Masahiro Nakaoka. We know that climate change are mostly affected by human activity, direct or indirectly, and it has serious impact to the marine ecosystem and also marine organism due to the sea level rise, rising temperature, ocean acidification, and also storm and rainfall. And each factor does not act individually, but also synergistically. And we can solve the problem through triangle of ecosystem management, through research, monitoring, and conservation and management. Okay, maybe before closing, Prof. Masa, you can give a closing statement for this lecture.
Okay. Thank you very much for attending this session, and it's really I enjoyed giving a talk and discussing our interesting common issues with some of you, and I think all of you actually have some gain more knowledge or information which is useful for your research or career. And I hope, due to COVID-19, so I couldn't come to Indonesia for 2 years, and hope I can visit. I've been working with Frida in Karimun, Java, and I really want to visit your place again, and hope I can see you in person next year, sometime in next year.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Masa. So, finally, we go to the end. Thank you for your participating in this online seminar, or we call it a general lecture. Please give me apologies if I have mistaken in serving this seminar. And I hope all of you enjoy the seminar, and please give applause to the speaker, Prof. Masahiro Nakahodoka, and all of you. Thank you again and goodbye. And I give this to the MC now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Insinyur Frida Purwanti, for serving as moderator. It is very wonderful and fruitful discussion for all of us. We gain new knowledge, new insight about the climate change. We know that climate change has a very powerful impact on rising sea temperature, and then ocean acidification, rising in the sea level, and then intensified storms and rainfall, and many more. And I can say that all of us already feel those symptoms, right? Heavy rainfall and then flooding and etc. And what we can do, as what Prof. Masa said, we can more wise to use like air conditioner and many more electronic things or devices that can lead to the carbon dioxide. Sorry, so please, can you mute? Yeah, please, for the participant, you can mute your audio. Okay, thank you. Yeah, sorry for the inconvenience. Okay, I would like to thank you so much for Prof. Masa for the new knowledge, new insight for us. And then finally we get to the last session of this online seminar, that is closing. Let's close this event by saying Hamdalah together. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. On behalf of our department and faculty, once again, I would like to thank you to Prof. Masahiro Nakahodoka, PhD, to Dr. Frida Purwanti as the moderator, to the Dean and Vice Dean of Academic and Student Affairs, Prof. Triwinarni, and also Bapak Agus Trianto, MSc, PhD. The head of this department, Aquatic Resource Department, Dr. Insinyur Suryanti, and then the head of graduate program of Aquatic Resource Management, Dr. Aninditya Sabdaningsih, to all of the committee, and as well as all of the participants. We really appreciate your coming in this online seminar. And here is the certificate of appreciation for Professor Masa. Thank you so much, Prof. Maybe this is not enough to share how grateful we are to have you in this afternoon. And also we have this certificate of appreciation for Dr. Insinyur Frida Purwanti. Thank you so much, Bu Frida, for serving as moderator. It is really good job and wonderful. And also, yeah, for all the participants, you can find the attendance form link in the chat box. I already put it in the chat box, and you can directly click to the link and fill in the form. And then the E-Certificate, you can find it in our website, aquatic.fpik.undip.ac.id. As soon as possible, yeah, we will deliver the certificate to you. And also don't forget to subscribe to our social media in Instagram, msp_FPIK_Undip. And then don't forget to subscribe our YouTube account at official Departemen Sumberdaya Akuatik FPIK Undip, and then visit our website at aquatic.fpik.undip.ac.id. And also, if you have any trouble in getting the certificate or anything, you can ask us in the Gmail, yeah, by the email at seminar.msp.undip@gmail.com. Okay, from the deepest of my heart, I do apologize for my mistakes in being your master of ceremony in this online seminar. Thank you very much for your kind attention and participation in this webinar, and see you on the next online seminar. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Masa. Thank you, Pak
Thank you
Mei.
very much, and
Thank
you're
you very
welcome.
much for all the okay for all. Bu Frida, thank you very much. Prof.
Terima
Master,
kasih.
ya. Prof,
Okay.
thank you, Bu Dia.
So see
Prof.
you
Thank you, Bu
soon.
Mimi.
See you
Bye-bye.
soon, Masa.
Arigato
Ya.
gozaimasu, Prof.
Ya,
Masaido.
arigato gozaimasu.
Arigato gozaimasu.
Thank you. Awesome.
See you
Thank you so much,
soon.
See
Prof. Thank you
you.
so much, Bu Frida.
Thank you.
See you in Indonesia.